This episode of the AFTN Soccer Show is brought to you by Recovery Family Law. Recovery Family Law is here to help you solve your family law problems. If you are going through a separation or divorce, they can provide you the confidence to make good decisions and support to enforce your rights. If you have a question about property, children or support, they have the answers. It's not too late or too early to get help. Email info@recoveryfamilylaw.ca or visit recoveryfamilylaw.ca and let their team get you excellent results.
Are you sitting comfortably? Then we'll begin.
10 minutes left. Yeah, but there's still some time. It's not the final score. We need more than the numbers we're given. Show us you live and breathe the game. You're more than a name. That's what we came for. We can bring you more than the score. Every story. Let's take this thing off of the field into the real world, away from the numbers, away from the numbers.
Welcome back, my friends, to the show that never ends. There's still time. The AFTN Soccer Show, broadcasting on CITR Radio 101.9 FM from the unceded Musqueam Territory at the University of beautiful British Columbia. Brought to you in partnership with recoveryfamilylaw.ca. I'm Michael McCall.
And I'm Zachary Adam Eisenheimer.
And we're back with another packed show of Canadian football chat. And, just the action, it keeps coming thick and fast. We're going to talk Whitecaps. We're going to talk MLS. We're going to talk CPL. And we've got two featured interviews for you. We're going to hear from a former Whitecap and current Vancouver FC player, Matteo Campagna. And then we also sit down for a chat with CPL Commissioner Mark Noonan. We'll also hear from both head coaches after the Whitecaps game in Seattle. And we'll hear a little bit from proud Papa John Herdman about his son Jay, who made his MLS Whitecaps first team debut on Saturday night as well. So much to get to, so little time. 3 hours. It's so hard to fill that, some folks say. I'll tell you how much stuff we've got this week. We're bringing you 2 proper shows and we're bringing you an extra podcast. So you're probably going to have about 6 hours of AFTN stuff to listen to this week. The extra podcast right now, I'm probably going to bring it out Monday evening as a look at the CPL action over week 2 and looking ahead to Vancouver FC Cavalry, but I might delay it till Tuesday night and do it as a post-game show after that Canadian Championship game. Which, have you decided yet, Zach, if you're going through to it? It all seemed to be dependent on Brick
I'm
Can.
going.
Yeah, so you obviously made some good money at Brick Can.
Yeah, no, it wasn't just that, but Brick Can will get well, but yeah, it looks like I'm jumping in a car Tuesday morning, heading east.
You're coming back after the game, aren't you? You're not staying.
Yeah, why would you stay? Who has time? You?
Oh, that's... Are you sharing the driving?
Yeah, oh yeah.
Oh, okay, right, okay. Because that
this
just sounds insane
like
otherwise.
This is not like a Portland trip, like back in the day, where it was like, drive down, go to the game, back by the car, drive home.
Okay, that's not so good.
That is what we're doing. We're driving down, go to the game, driving back.
Oh yeah, but you're taking turnabout, yeah. And there's no borders. Well, there is a border, but as of now, there is no border security. I'm sure in years to come that will probably happen between BC and Alberta. But you have been bricking it all weekend. Out in Richmond, you and your kid.
Bricky it?
Yes.
You and your kid. Oh my goodness, Michael. The way you put things is always so wonderful.
You were playing with your little Lego bricks.
Or as Afshin Gopi would say, you're entertaining.
Yes. Oh, yeah. I mean, why did I not lead with that? I wasn't able to go on the pre-game call on Wednesday, but Afshin had very nice things to say about the show, telling Zach that we're very entertaining.
Yeah,
I agree.
I find you mostly entertaining. Sometimes shocking, but entertaining.
Yes, I'm not sure in a good or a bad way, but it's like Afshin. It was meant as a sincere compliment, and it was taken as such. And I think I've now found that our niche market for the show is 60-year-old Iranian Americans. So we're going to cater to that, which actually we are in a way, because next month's album of the month is by an Iranian American band, and that was planned this whole time. So
there you go.
It's just pure coincidence, as many things on this show turn out to be. But yeah, you had fun out there. So you've had a busy few days. I'm amazed you're still awake.
Oh yeah.
It's 11 o'clock on Sunday as we kick this off. It'll probably be 11 o'clock on Monday morning by the time we finish it. There's so much to record. But I mean, talking about bringing out so many shows this week, we're in a bit of a dilemma at the moment, or I am. It's about balancing content, because obviously most of our listeners, I think, listen to us for Whitecaps and MLS chat. And then we've got people that are interested also in the CPL, and then people that are only interested in the CPL. It's the old Venn diagram again.
And probably a few others.
Yeah. I like to cover League One, which is going to be kicking off this coming weekend, which is actually what the second show this week is primarily going to be focused. It's kind of going to be a League One special, but also touching on Whitecaps and CPL stuff as well.
Is it not written into the agreement that all the TSS owners have to listen to the show?
It should be, if it isn't.
It should
but
be.
To be fair, I think most of them do. 440 owners, TSS.
Yeah, I know. And that's why we need them to listen.
We'll be talking TSS very shortly, actually.
But we will, of course.
Balancing the content is tough. So
it is.
The last show was probably 2/3 CPL, 1/3 Whitecaps MLS. And the previous shows, it's more been kind of either 2/3 MLS Whitecaps and 1/3 CPL, or 50-50. And there was a distinct drop, probably by about maybe 300 listens when I checked on Friday night, between the CPL heavy shows and the other ones. So it's trying to find a good balance. So we might bring out more extra podcasts. We might bring out 2 podcasts in a week. The reason I don't like doing that is a full week gives people time for the podcast to bed in. So people listen to at various times over the week. We have a lot of folk that listen to the show on a Friday and a Saturday. So if we've brought another show out before that, my worry is that they're then going to miss a show and just listen to the more recent one. So that's my problem. Yeah, but that's why there's going to be so much content this week.
Yeah, I don't disagree. I think I told you this, but like there's a podcast I listen to, and some will know just how I describe it, that they've gone to like from a couple a week to like 18 episodes a week of different spliced up for different communities, if you will. And I'm like, I think I'm now a month behind because like I started doing this last month, and I'm like, I don't know. It's
why we ended up just starting to do 2 to 3 hour shows, because it's all timestamped. Folk can listen to whatever they want.
Keep ahead,
like we have so much content this week, because I have another feature interview that I did 2 weeks ago that I'd held off to this show, but then we got to speak to Mark Noonan, so then I'm keeping it to the next one, but it's about League One, so I need to bring it out before the season starts. So things like that.
Yes. Oh, I'm looking forward to that one.
Yes, I'll tell you who it is, everyone. It's Todd May from Burnaby FC, but we also hope to speak to some other League One connected people as well this week. So we'll see what happens. And we'll be talking about a League One club soon. Before we start with the Canadian football chat, I want to talk about FA Cup. Did you watch, or have you seen, or have you heard anything about the Man United Coventry game this morning?
Yes. Yes. Florian, my buddy in Germany in Bayern, my Bayern buddy, he messaged me about it this morning.
Oh,
And then so I looked it up and I haven't seen, did I see? No, I haven't seen the highlights, but I saw what happened.
yeah. So in summary, for anyone under a rock that hasn't heard what happened, semi-final of the FA Cup, Man United against champion side Coventry. And Coventry's a team, I've got a bit of a soft spot for them. I remember their brown jersey from the 70s. I remember them in the 1987 FA Cup final. And I've got a Coventry City kit, which is a special two-tone kit that they brought out for the 40th anniversary of the two-tone record label and the special. So it's a club that I've always had a bit of a soft spot for.
And my only Coventry connection is also a Man United connection, because I think I've told you the story lots before, but I met Dion Dublin, who played for Coventry City and for Manchester United, on a train going to Gelsenkirchen the day England was playing Portugal at the 2006 World Cup in, what was that, the round of 16 or the quarterfinals? I can't remember which. And
Well,
I had a brief chat with him.
another Coventry connection is Steve. Actually, Coventry's because he's got family in Coventry and he's kind of followed Coventry over the years. And if folk wonder why he's not on the show, it's because we've sent him to Coventry. We haven't, but it ties in nicely. But yeah, so basically what happened this morning is Man United were all over Coventry. They were 3-0 up and coasting. Coventry make it 3-1. A deflected goal makes it 3-2. It's deep into stoppage time. They get a penalty. They score. It's 3-3. It goes to extra time. Still 3-3 at the end of the first half of extra time. Still 3-3 as the 120-minute mark gets reached. 22 seconds into extra time, stoppage time, Coventry score, and Wembley goes insane. Then they showed the replay, and I thought, he's offside. But then they showed the line, and I would say he's 3 millimeters offside. But somebody, I don't know if you've seen this, somebody zoomed in, and this might be doctored. I haven't checked this because I just saw this before we started recording. The line is actually over the defender's foot. So, is he offside? But it got disallowed. Man United won on penalties, and Coventry hearts were broken. Absolutely heartbreaking for Coventry. Their fans have been through so much in the last 10 to 15 years. They've not been able to play at their home stadium. They had to play away. They returned to their home stadium. They went back away from their stadium. Then they got back. They've got new owners, and they're on the rise. They're on the way back, hopefully, to the Premier League. But it's been really, really tough. And I've got to say, my heart broke for Coventry and their fans in this. But also, I hate... I've been constant in this, and whether it went for or whether it went against the Whitecaps or any team that I support, if it's that close that an eye could never determine it, I just hate it. It just, that for me just ruins the game completely. And even if it had been Man United that scored, I would still have said the same thing. It's like, for 3 millimeters, you've deprived possibly one of the biggest or best endings in an FA Cup game ever.
I've said this before, I'll say it again. The technology or whatever it is they use in England for the lines for offside is rubbish. Like, it's not the same as what they use in the Bundesliga, and it's not the same that is used for, World Cups. And is in the Champions League too. I can't remember, but like, it's not the same. And it's nice and all for people to trumpet about how the Premier League is the best and the richest league in the world, and they spend the most money and they get the best players and stuff. Well, if that's true, and I don't argue, I wouldn't debate that. Why the heck can you not get the top of the line technology to stop this kind of crap from happening? Or
they're going to be running semi-automatic offsides from next season.
Yeah, but
AI is taking over.
this isn't rocket science. Like in these other competitions or other leagues, when this happens, it's very clear, and they show everyone, and everyone's like, yes, it's very clear. There's no debate. There's no like, oh, even the idiots drawing the lines are screwing this up. You know what I mean? Like this, the whole thing that offside is scientific and objective, and there's no room for subjectivity. Therefore, it is absolutely clear and obvious whether it's not offside, is done other places to virtual perfection. And the fact that it's done so poorly in a place like that, where they have so much money to spend on they have the ability to spend money on something like that, to me is just absolutely crazy. It's crazy.
The other crazy, like when you first saw the replay, because of how the camera angle was, he looked a fair bit offside. But then when the lines got, and you kind of measure it up, it's like, oh no. And it's like, oh boy, it genuinely was just millimeters. And
that's okay. I'm one of the people that I'm okay if it's objectively millimeters, it's offside.
Some folk will say it's either offside or not. Yeah. But I've always said, if an eye could not tell that, then technology ruins it then.
No, but here's the thing, Michael, in the competitions that I permanently watch in European football, it is no longer the dude on the sidelines calling offside. No. This whole thing, I believe this whole thing where they don't put up their flag right away is because the people in the thing just tell them, yeah, it was offside or not.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
I saw a couple of games this weekend when there was a guy that was clearly offside and the flag didn't go up, but then he didn't score.
Yeah.
But then they nearly scored from the second phase of it. And it's like, or they got a corner and then they scored from the corner. So it's like,
yeah.
That's when it gets really dodgy, because it's like, well, he was offside and he hasn't put his flag up, and now they've got a corner.
I've never seen that. Yeah, I don't know that I've seen that. Maybe I have once, but typically what I've seen in instances like that, it's like he takes a shot, goes out for the corner, and then the flag gets up, and they're like, oh yeah, by the way, it was offside. It seems so solvable, and I don't understand why you wouldn't solve it.
Well, I mean, the outrage in this has been insane. And I think it's partly because it was the underdog that had it taken away from them.
Yeah.
I mean, also in the penalty shootout, Coventry scored their first one and Man United missed their first one because Casemiro, I think he was trying a Panenka. It was either a Panenka or a very shit penalty down the middle. And this is another thing, my old man shouting at the clouds stuff again. Any player that tries that is just a selfish prick, and they're trying to just get glory. It's like,
well, that happened it happened this week in the Champions League as well. Who was it? I can't remember now, but someone did the same thing. Like he shot right down the middle. The keeper just stood there and grabbed it. Yeah, but this one wasn't Panenka-ish. It was more just down the middle.
Since I'm on my rants about stuff, in penalty shootouts, if a goalkeeper's had a yellow card and then gets another yellow card in the shootout, it's not a sending off. Now, that's not right either, because the Man United keeper today was up to all the tricks and he'd already been booked, and then he got a yellow in the shootout, but he's allowed to have another one.
Yeah, that's a...
Because I think that also happened midweek with Martinez as well for Aston Villa. So
yeah, we all know he's shown us he's a wanker.
He's the kind of guy that if he's with your team, you'll love him. But if he's not, you think he's a complete tosser. The other thing about the FA Cup I wanted to talk about this week, did you hear about what they're doing? They're stopping replays from the first round proper now from next season.
Oh.
So the preliminary rounds, preliminary rounds, you can still have replays, but from the first round onwards, no replays, just extra time and penalties. And what you have to bear in mind is, in the first and second rounds, it's League One, League Two, and non-league teams. And the FA are saying we're doing this because of the UEFA calendar. These teams aren't affected by the UEFA calendar. And it's now subsequently come out that the Football League was not consulted about it. It was just the FA and the Premier League officials that made the decisions. So once again, it's the money men for the big teams in smoky rooms making the decisions that affects the rest of football. And they're like, oh, we'll give you money and compensation and stuff. But so many of these clubs, whether it's non-league clubs in the first and second rounds, whether it's League One, League Two clubs and third round onwards, they can make money from a replay, whether it's at home or away, that can keep them going for up to 5 years.
Yeah. You know where I stand on this. I think single elimination is better.
I do like single elimination. And if they said, as I've always said, the lower seeded team gets to host, unless it's two teams from the same division and then it's just whoever gets drawn out first.
I like the drawn out. I like the drawn out where there's no predetermined. Like that would be the more ideal. I understand obviously why they do it certain ways in certain places, but the straight draw where it's anything can happen, anyone can host, whatever. That's the best, and that's what, of course, I long for in the Voyageurs Cup here in Canada. None of this, one round single, one rounds double, blah blah blah, back and forth, and whatever. Yeah. I mean, I'd prefer straight knockout here. They stopped, like they used to have the FA Cup semi-finals up until I think 2000 used to have replays, because I remember some great replays, and then the final used to go to a replay. And I've mentioned this on this show before. Wasn't there some where the semi-finals were 2 legs in England? Or maybe I'm just thinking
that's the League Cup.
It used to be 2 legs all the way through.
The League Cup's 2 legs. Cup. Yeah, the FA Cup's always been one, but it went to a replay. And then I've mentioned this before, that in Scotland, we never showed the FA Cup final on TV. It was only the Scottish Cup final. And it never went to a replay. It always went to extra time. So it was great when the FA Cup final had been a draw, because in the next Wednesday or Thursday, you got the replay on TV. So you got to see that as well. So they're just changing everything, and cup football is just devalued so much. At least in Canada, we have gone the opposite way. We're increasing the number of games and the number of teams that are in the Canadian Championship for better or worse. Which brings me on nicely to the big news of the week. The big news. TSS Rovers are back in the Canadian Championship. Not the way anyone would have wanted them to.
Would have wanted, yeah.
But Victoria Highlanders going bust.
Can I break the biggest news?
Go on.
And not to jump ahead, but I heard that Josh Hurt is prepared for your return visit with a goal at the weekend.
He's put a restraining order out on me. I'm not allowed to talk about him on the podcast. I certainly will not be talking about his goal at the weekend, in which I may have shouted a 4-letter word at the TV.
Oh, no.
I won't tell you what word. It could have been goal. Who knows?
No, Michael, I know you and I know what word.
It might just have been boo with 3 O's. But yes,
it was not that.
TSS are heading back to Starlight Stadium in Langford to take on Pacific FC Wednesday, May 1st, 7 p.m. Be there. Tell you who will be there, the Swan Guardians. And I don't know if you know this, but our section for the game is going to be the old Lakeside Boys section behind the goal. So I'm taking it that's the section that you guys are going to be in when you go over for the derby.
Yeah, unfortunately, that's what I've been hearing.
Yeah, so no roof, unfortunately, for us this time.
No roof, exactly.
Because our roof the last time with the drums and stuff we had, as you had as well when you were over, it amplified it so much. It made it sound like there was 3 times as many of us there. It was fantastic.
It was beautiful.
Yeah.
This is a beautiful thing.
But I mean, we'll get more in the telly.
But it's nice to see that, we helped bring about change for them at their ground to make things better.
Yes. Boy, they've got to keep you troublemakers all in one piece. You don't want any more bottles getting chucked at the players. You're so far away from the pitch, really, from behind the goal. You'd have to have a pretty good throw.
Actually, there you can get closer to the pitch and you could hit people easier if you were so inclined. Which, of course, I am not.
Of course, I'm not either. I am looking forward to it. It should be a fantastic game, and it's an interesting one because, as in last year, this will be TSS's first competitive game of the season. Because their proper first competitive game of the season was meant to be Highlanders next weekend, but now they have a bye week.
Oh, man.
So that can work in two ways. Pacific won't fully be able to scout TSS. Now, they might think they might be able to scout TSS because they'll be like, oh, it's all the guys from last year. Except it's not. Some have moved on. There's some new guys in. And I've made it very clear to Colin and the folk at TSS, stop tweeting out your player announcements now. So you don't give a heads up to Pacific as to who might be in the squad.
Yeah.
Now,
Are
they'll probably know anyway. I
Yeah.
think they might be. But Pacific will probably know because players talk, they all know each other. But if you can get any slight advantage at all, take it. And it might be pointless, but hey, that's just how I look at it. But the flip side of that is TSS have had 3 games, or they will have had 3 games to scout Pacific. So they've got that. And Pacific's certainly, they know what kind of a battle they're in for after the game last year. And it didn't stop TSS causing the upset last year because they hadn't played a competitive game and they beat Valor. So exciting stuff ahead. I genuinely can't wait for it. We're going over on the Tuesday. We'll train at Starlight, get all the press stuff done, and then the big game on Wednesday. And then to make that week even better, I'm going to see Idols for the first time at the P&E Forum on the Thursday. Hopefully, I'll still have a voice to sing along to the songs. But I want to play a little bit of audio now just to end this part. We're going to hear, first of all, from new TSS Rovers head coach, Brendan Teeling, and Pacific FC head coach, James Merriman, just with their initial thoughts about the game. So, Brendan, the announcement's just been made. TSS Rovers back in the Canadian Championship. I know maybe not the way anyone really wanted to be in, but the club is back in. For you, new coach taking over the club this season. First match in charge, doesn't get much bigger than a Canadian Championship rematch with Pacific. How are you feeling about it all?
Yeah, for me it's a massive game, a massive moment for me in my career as well. But boys are buzzing. Obviously not the circumstances we wanted with Highlanders dropping out. So, you know, it's just one of those things, unfortunately, and for them it was a negative. For us it's a positive. We get to go back into that competition and hopefully challenge Pacific and give them a test in their home turf.
Now, although you're the new head coach, you were obviously very involved with the team last season. It's a big chance for revenge. The way the team lost in the end, it left a bit of a sour taste in the mouth, but it was just such a fantastic run. The chance now to cause another upset, and who knows what happens after that. I mean, the boys must just be absolutely buzzing right now.
Yeah, I mean, obviously with Darren moving out and myself coming in, I was around it all last year, and it definitely ended in a bitter way against Highlanders. But the start of the season against Valor, winning that game, unbelievable. And then the second leg against Pacific, or the second round against Pacific, it didn't end the way we wanted it, but we were very close. So hopefully we can continue, you know, our kind of work rate and our look in that competition, and yeah, we can go from there.
Now, last year it was the club's first game of the season. That didn't seem to dampen things too much for you. This time around will be the club's first competitive game of the year. Pacific will have had 3 under their belt, so you'll have had a chance to scout them in actual games. They won't have of you, but the flip side of that is they've got 3 games to get their match fitness up to proper levels, whereas you guys won't have. Do you see that being a factor at all?
I think 2 weeks to prepare for, you know, a game of this magnitude is not really a lot. I suppose our boys are playing year round, VMSL, FSL, whatever it is. A lot of them play together anyway, so I think the gel, the chemistry is there. You know, obviously we can get to look at a couple of their games and do a bit of an analysis, but yeah, I mean, it works in both ways. They're a professional side, we're a semi-professional side. Pressure's probably more on them than us, so yeah, I'm excited for the challenge. Yeah, you know, it works both ways.
think we respect them. We respect the game that they played us here last season for sure. We know the energy that they put into the game against Valor, and we always respect everybody that we play. We'll take the game very seriously. We need to advance. We want to advance in the competition. Went to the semifinal. We weren't happy with the way we played the Whitecaps. They have a very good team, but we thought we could have shown more. We want more in the tournament. We want more in that cup competition, and we need to take them on first.
Tilo and James Merriman there chatting initially about their thoughts on the TSS Pacific game. Now, I want to thank Manuel Veth as well for asking James that question after the game on Friday so we could get it on the show. My big disappointment in all this is that it took so long to announce it. So it only got announced on Friday. The lateness in the day of it isn't ideal. And when it got announced on the Friday, I was like, oh, is that because it's the 1 year anniversary of our win over Valor? No, complete coincidence. I don't know, though, why it took 11 days to come to this decision. And then the game is in 11 days. It's just ridiculous. But TSS were kind of expecting it would be them, so they've been training and preparing as if it was.
11 days for such a big decision in Canadian football, Michael, is really, really quick for some people. But no, I hear your frustration in that. Yeah. That would be frustrating, even if you're a TSS and you know that there's a high probability, right?
Well, it's also left the fans scrambling for accommodation. It seems to be a busy time round about Langford. There's not a lot of accommodation going. I was speaking to Gordy today, and he was saying he's struggling to find decently priced accommodation.
Right.
So
right,
if
yes.
anyone over on the island, any Lakeside boys listening to this, has any even room on the floor for any of the TSS fans, hit us up. We'll put you in touch and be very much appreciated. So that is it for part one already. This is how we end up with 3-hour shows. We haven't even got into the meat and potatoes of the episode, but we've talked Lego, we've talked TSS and cup football. Now it's time to talk Whitecaps and MLS, and we'll be back with that after we hear this episode song from our album of the month.
Hi, I'm Brian White, and you're listening to the AFTN Soccer Show.
Something I just can't put my finger on is haunting me and tearing me. I'm left with bits and pieces of a memory, just a memory. Oh, I must have broke her up when we talked last night, but that was a heated moment, that's alright. Someone I just don't want to listen to is calling me and boring me. Some untamed short-change lesson out of history it used to be. And I must have cut her up with the things I said. I wait a while recalling just what I said. Later in the waking hours. Later in the waking hours.
Welcome back to the AFTN Soccer Show on CITR Radio 101.9 FM, brought to you in partnership with recoveryfamilylaw.ca. They support us, go and support them for all your family legal needs. And kicking off this part, it's this episode's song from our album of the month for April. 1989's Shakespeare, Alabama is the album. Diesel Park West is the band, an English band. It was their debut album. That was track 5 of 12 on the album, The Waking Hour. And amazingly, we're still awake recording this late on Sunday evening. And this will keep us really awake because we're getting into the meat and potatoes of the show, Zach. The Whitecaps. We know who we are. We know who we are. Kings of Cascadia. We know who we are. The Whitecaps went down to Seattle and got their first win since 2016 down there. And I was at that game. Sadly, wasn't at this game. As I mentioned in the last show, not allowed to leave the country. They won't let me back in. Won't go into why. You have to listen to the last episode. That'll get the numbers back up again. But teasing, this is what I don't do enough. Teasing, get folk to listen back in it. But yes, the Whitecaps were briefly on top of the Western Conference once again at the end of Saturday night, knocked off that perch on Sunday by LA Galaxy. We'll come to that in a little bit. But yeah, the Whitecaps got a big 2-0 win over the Sounders. It was an assured performance. They didn't veer away from their game plan, which Vanni felt is what really cost them against the Galaxy the week before. And they were patient against a 10-man Sounder side, using possession well, breaking them down, high pressing, commanding basically all areas of the field. And I mean, genuinely, I don't know how much you can fully analyse this game, how much you can take from it, considering A, how poor Seattle were when they had 11 men, never mind the fact that they finished the game with 9 men. But what I will say is I felt the Whitecaps' overall shape from front to back was tremendous, and their pressing game was just fantastic, and it was that created the 2 goals.
Yeah, I mean, they were like, did you ever, even before the red cards, did you ever feel like Seattle was a threat? Like, we were texting during this as we were watching it, right? And like, you never felt like
first 10 minutes, but which is maybe we're getting used to this with Whitecaps, especially on the road. The home team comes out a bit stronger, and the Whitecaps, it feels like it takes them a little bit of time to find their feet, but I think that is just the game plan. So the first 10 minutes, I was like, oh, Sounders seem up for this, and then they just fell out of the game.
But okay, up for it, but they weren't. Like,
they weren't creating anything. I mean, there was only one shot on target in the whole first half, and that was the Whitecaps.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like, it would never felt like you never felt a true threat. You know what I mean? Like, up for it, or you know, competence or whatever is a pretty low bar, right? Like, it never. I never felt like the Whitecaps were going to concede to the Sounders, you know, at any point in the game. Like, I never.
I mean, it's kind of crazy that maybe the best chance. Well, I guess the Sounders did have a good chance at the start of the second half. Jordan Morris. So they were down to 10 men and they had that chance. And then at the end, Yohei Takaoka comes up with a save deep in stoppage time when they're down to 9 men. So I don't know if that was just complacency by the Whitecaps at that point, but I mean, the job was done. But obviously, you want to keep a clean sheet.
Even with those chances, Michael, like, I never felt like. Did you ever feel like, Seattle's gonna get one?
No,
like, you know what I mean? Like,
no.
Yeah,
I mean, throughout the whole game, as the more the game went on, Seattle, they lost their composure, they lost their defensive shape and sensibilities, and that led to them ultimately losing the 3 points. And it was a very, very confident and comfortable Whitecaps performance down there. Like, they controlled that game. They did to Seattle what Seattle have done to the Whitecaps down there for years. And the fans walking out about the 71st minute in droves was fantastic to see as well.
Yeah.
And we'll hear a little bit from Schmetzer in a bit as well, but he was asked about the fans walking out, and he says, hey, I respect that. He says, I respect the ones that walked out.
Well,
I
that's the.
respect the ones that stayed.
I was talking to Andrew Del Bar at Brick Can. He's
Ah, yeah.
uh, one of the people who plays a significant role. I didn't get to go to his football tournament this time, which was not ideal, but that's life. But yeah, I said to him, the thing about Brian Schmetzer is that he is a true steward of that football club.
hmm
Like if they keep going like this, he will either step down or they'll have a conversation with him and he'll step down. You know what I mean? Like they won't need to fire him. They probably, I mean, they might pay him some severance or whatever,
Yeah.
but like they
He
won't.
loves that
He's
club.
gonna,
He'll
he's
still
gonna,
be involved in some role in it as well, you would think, as well, if he stood down.
yeah. But he truly, if he comes to a place where he's like, yeah, I cannot help this move forward, he will get out of the way.
Yeah. And
Which,
as
which
you'll
is admirable.
hear in a little bit from him, he was quite downcast and wasn't pulling punches about what he thought about some of this stuff. But we'll get into a little bit of the game. Now, the lineup, when it came out, we were chatting about it and we were a little surprised. Like Sam up in a front three. In some ways, though, it was really just two up front. I think it was more a 3-5-2 than the 3-4-3 that it was kind of listed as. But
yeah, I think that's fair. Yeah, when
I was surprised, but he did well. Especially when he switched.
Yeah,
when him and
it
Ali
was surprising.
switched, that was a big part of it, I think, as well. When Sam went more on the
Well,
left
because
and then Ali went on the right.
yeah, because they started inverted, yeah, which
Mhm.
was I can't remember ever seeing Sam playing as an inverted winger or fullback.
No.
In fact, it was in Seattle that because I remember once I think it was I don't know if it was a media thing or a supporter gathering, but I asked Carl Robinson, I'm like, hey, why wouldn't you play Sam Adekugbe and Jordan Harvey together, like one in front of the other on your left side?
Mhm.
And he said, do you not remember when we did that? And I was just like, wait, when was that? He was like, Seattle away.
Sorry, I just have entered the Indy 500.
Gran Turismo over there. He's like, do you not remember when we did that? And I was like, no. He's like 3-0 away to Seattle in, I think it was in the CONCACAF Cup or whatever, in the group stage we played. Remember that time we were with him in the group stage that year?
Yes.
And he's like, yeah. He's like, we did it once. It was a disaster. He's like, I'm never doing that again.
I mean, it was kind of a needs must. Fafa Pico's still struggling with his back spasms.
Yeah.
Hopefully it's not going to be too much longer for it. There was 3 changes altogether with Bjorn Utvik coming back into the starting lineup. Now, I thought he would have come in for Blackman, but he came in for Laborda.
Yeah.
Now, whether that was just
Laborda,
rotational to rest, I don't know. But I was like, oh, I would have rather have had Laborda in there. But I mean, credit to that back
worked out.
three. They had really good. Bjorn Inge Utvik is, for me right now, my unsung hero or surprise of the season. Probably more surprise than unsung hero, but he's really playing above what I was expecting from him. Every game that he's played in, I've really liked what I've seen from him.
It was weird. I was a little worried for him when he took that knock, even though he's got the skull cap thing on.
Yeah.
He took that knock. I was like, oh no.
I mean, derbies are going to be feisty, and we'll get into some of the feistiness. I mean, the first half, there was not a lot happening. There was a couple of early sort of forays forward by both teams. Rusnak flashed one wide in the 23rd minute. The Caps responded with a really good breakaway. So Sam was going up the right, and then he cuts it back behind Brian White, who had run ahead. And I think that's just unfamiliarity of playing with each other at this stage. Yeah. And I don't know who I blame more for that. I think White was where he was expecting the ball to go, to be fair. It was a chance. It went astray. There was a shot that the Whitecaps had. I'm trying to remember now who actually had it. It was the only one of the game. Oh, Pedro Vite. Yes, that was the early one, the 11th minute. Stefan Fry parried away a Pedro Vite effort, and then Nuhu managed to clear it just before any Whitecaps could pounce on it. So I mean,
Nuhu, that's your favorite. That's your favorite sounder, right?
I like saying the name Nuhu. It's a fun name to say. I've never been a big fan of him. I think he's a bit overrated. He has had a couple of good seasons. I will put my hands up and say that, and maybe surprised me a little bit. I thought he was quite horrible in this game, but then most of the Seattle defence was. But we got the first big turning point in the game in the 38th minute when Jackson Reagan went through the back of Gold, left Ryan on the deck, referee played advantage. It was a good advantage to play. And then it came to nothing though, and then the referee blew the whistle and called the play back. Now, the Sounders players were going nuts because they were like, it's not a head knock, why have you stopped the game? But by him doing that, it then allowed them to look at the video review, and then the more you watched the replay, the worse the tackle looked. What I will say though, well actually I'll say a couple of things on this. One thing I don't like about VAR in general, and I've already had a VAR rant in the show, but when you start the play sometimes for the referee to look at the moment that, say, studs have gone into the leg, it already puts in the referee's mind, oh, that's bad, without seeing it play out. And whenever you slow something down or you stop it at a horrendous looking bit of it, it does sometimes make things worse. Now, in no way am I trying to play down that challenge because it was a bad challenge. It wasn't malicious. It was clumsy. If our guy got sent off for it, I'd be like, oh, was that really a red? Maybe a yellow would have been good enough. But then the next day I would have looked at it and been like, nah, I think a red was probably a fair result. The Sounders fans, on the other hand, still do not think it's a red card. And I got alerted. People were saying, oh, you've got... I watched the game on TSN, as I know you did as well. And folk were saying, you need to listen to the Apple commentators. They're such homers. So they were in disbelief that it was a red card. And our spy in the Seattle press box last night said the Seattle media were losing their collective mind at the decision. Well, we're back with the racing cars.
It was just crazy. I mean, it's a horrendous challenge. Does he mean it? Absolutely not.
I mean, it's a clumsy challenge. There's no intent, but it's still a bad tackle. It doesn't excuse it. The law is the law at the end of the day.
Exactly. The players are responsible for their actions, whether they're intentional or unintentional. And when you go into the back of a player like that, it's a clear sending off.
Mm-hmm.
And I find that, when you told me that about the Seattle press, I found that strange because they are generally a knowledgeable bunch and typically hold up their hand when they've gotten something wrong or things.
But there are also a lot of fanboys. It's like there's a lot of fanboys in the TFC media, and there's a lot of fanboys in the Seattle media, and there probably is across the rest of the league.
Yeah,
you could say there are none in Vancouver. Just me, and at VFCU. I want to read this because every club has in the media a pool reporter that is responsible if there's any decisions during the game. Yes. They're allowed to ask 2 questions to the referee. They submit it in writing and they submit it after the game.
Yeah, but before that, we should talk about this was the first game with the updated rules with VAR, which was great.
Oh, but let's talk about that first then. So it was great, and I saw it today in the LA San Jose game as well. So although you could actually hear what the referee said in the Whitecaps game, you couldn't totally hear what was said in the LA game. But loud and clear, he's like, a challenge by green number. You'd think he'd say Seattle instead of green. But it was like they also said blue in the LA game today as well. But yeah, I loved it because this was the first game after the refs are back that all the new rules were in play. So you've got to get off the pitch in 10 seconds. If you're down for treatment for more than 15 seconds, you have to go off and you can't come on for 2 minutes. I love these rules. And I was listening to, I'll not name drop them again, the famous Sloping Pitch podcast, and they were talking about this. And they do quite like it as like English podcast. But one of them said, Is this just a case, though, of making rules for something that wasn't really a problem to begin with? Was the problem more that the referees just don't enforce enough time for time wasting to begin with? Will this really eradicate it?
That's probably a fair perspective on some of these things. I think this whole explaining stuff is huge.
Yeah,
Like
that
it
is
will
long
calm down
overdue.
things that are
They
calm
loved
down
that,
players.
and they said
I also
more leagues need to do it, and I totally agree. It's like we've seen it in rugby for years, and it's tremendous. You see it in cricket as well. I don't know how many folk watch cricket here, but it's like those sports, it clears up so much misunderstanding.
I think too, Michael, the use of the team's color as opposed to the name, I think is supposed to point towards or indicate the objectivity of the referee, that he's not
Okay.
thinking about who they are. He's refereeing
Okay.
two colors,
Oh, well, that makes a bit of
whatever.
sense. Yeah.
That's my guess, but yeah.
But
Yeah.
we'll get to the pool questions, because one of the big issues that Seattle
Yes.
media had was why it took so long if it was clear and obvious. Because he got sent off in the 43rd minute and the challenge was in the 38th minute. So here's the two questions that were submitted. I've got to say, I was chortling away at these. Question: what about Jackson Reagan's foul allowed it to rise to, quote, serious foul play? They put in their actual question in quotes. Answer from the ref, Remy Touchan. Reagan's challenge endangered the safety of Ryan Gauld when Jackson's studs came down on the calf with excessive force. Now, in the post-game, it was revealed that Ryan's got 6 stud marks in the back of his leg.
Yeah.
So if
Who's
Seattle
behind him?
media want to, and their fans want to question that, let's just have a look at Ryan's leg.
Yeah.
Second question, and this is the one that this is like a passive-aggressive reply from the referee, and I love it. Why did it take 5 minutes to determine it was a clear and obvious error, with clear and obvious in quotes? Answer: the clear and obvious error determined by the VAR took 2 minutes and 27 seconds to recommend review. Overall, it was 5 minutes, but he has to still look at it, and video review has to call him over to begin with. I did feel he was taking a long time to make the decision, and the longer it went on, you're like, well, maybe he isn't thinking it's clear and obvious. But I think part of that was they didn't show him the definitive angle right away either. They were showing him other things, and then as soon as he kind of saw the definitive angle, it's like, oh yeah, there we go.
Yeah. The angles weren't great, but
No.
it was clear and obvious.
I mean, there's one in particular where you see the Gould's at a weird angle and then the studs are on it. Now, the Apple commentators were saying he was getting pushed down and that's why his leg went out at a weird angle for Reagan to stand on it. And it's like, what? That wasn't the worst thing the commentator said, though, which we'll come to when we do the second half. But it was the right decision. And did it change the game? Probably did. I mean, it might have been a 0-0 the way that the first half was playing out, but it certainly gave the advantage to Vancouver. More drama was to come in the second half, and it's the old cliche, it's difficult to play
Was it
against
ever?
men and all that kind of stuff. But I will say it kind of is difficult because the other team gets everyone behind the ball and you have to try and break them down. And that isn't what the Whitecaps have been the most successful at under Vanni, is like breaking down teams that get lots of players behind the ball or playing with a lot of possession. And Vanni kind of touched on that in his post-game. He said they had to kind of play an alien kind of game to what they're used to because they like to play the counter. They like to do the press and try and get the turnovers. Although both the goals that came in the second half were because of the press and Seattle turnovers. So let's get to the first goal. And we had to wait until the 58th minute for the breakthrough to come. But when it came, it was a nice goal. The Whitecaps had kept the pressure on. Schopf had a chance just a couple of minutes before, and they'd kept the pressure on from that. And they really had played a patient game to start that second half. And it was such good pressure that the Whitecaps forced the turnover.
It was like this goal was like three pieces of Vanni's team doing exactly what Vanni wants them to do.
Yeah.
Right. It was Andres Kubas pressuring to win the ball back, making a decisive pass to Sam Adekugbe.
Well, he broke up
wide on the
Nuhu's
left.
attempted pass out, which was the second time in just a few seconds that Nuhu had been put under pressure and did not look good in the box. But yeah, he tried that. I don't know what he was trying or what he was thinking, but Kubas did well to break that up. And then, once he broke it up...
And then Sam plays the ball plays it into Gauld, and Gauld just hits it with pace, some power.
He's
and it goes
wide open as well,
through front.
Gauld. He just ran straight in, wide open, unmarked. It was a really good cutback by Sam, and it was a good team goal. It was a good finish. Fry got a hand on it, but it was 1-0 Whitecaps. And as soon as that went in, I thought, that's it. They're not coming back.
The other thing about it, I do not always like how MLS awards like second assists, but this was a really clear.
Kubas definitely deserved a second assist. I'm happy that they gave it to
Kubas. Yeah,
but it was horrendous defending by Seattle. But they had just been put under so much pressure for about a 5-minute spell that they just buckled. They were bending, and there was some passes that they got away with, and they broke with this one. And after that, there was no way back. I want to go back to the Apple TV commentator, and I tweeted this out, which got a lot of reactions, because this appalled me, this comment. Now, it might just have been a clumsy comment, and he might look back at it today and think, I could maybe have picked my words a bit better. So Gauld scores, and he says, the man who went down to draw the first half red card. You know, the man that's got 6 stud marks on his leg. He did not go down to draw a red card.
No. Well, you and I even were texting about this very thing. You're like, Ryan going down. Ryan staying down.
Yeah, this is before I saw the replay.
Yeah. Before you saw the replay, you're like, Ryan staying down enabled them to look at this longer and see how bad it was.
Yeah.
And I replied to you by saying, dude, Gauld is down because he's in so much bloody pain. There's no simulation. There's no acting here.
Well, yeah, but then I saw the replay and I was like, oh, yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, once you've seen the replay, there's no way that you can think, he stayed down to get that decision. But yeah, I hope he just worded it clumsily and it wasn't just full Homer mode by him. But that was 1-0 in the 58th, and game put to bed in the 71st, 2-0. Brian White, Arriaga was forced to kind of go to his left by Damir Krylak, who was pressing him so hard. And I don't know if he just didn't see White, but he basically just ran into him. White picks the ball off his foot, runs in on goal, slots it past Fry. It's 2-0, happy days, and the Whitecaps are in dreamland.
Yeah, another kind of gaff at the back from Seattle, but Brian White just Johnny on the spot and clinical, and just finish things off and put him level on all-time goals in competitive matches.
Yes.
For the Whitecaps in the MLS era, equaling the great Camilo Savenso.
I couldn't help but think he's tied the record. Look at how many chances he has missed. Just think what that record could suddenly be at.
Right, but you should enjoy the record, Michael.
Oh no, I do. I'm not taking anything away from him at all. It's like, I think he's a great guy, and I've said, if it takes 5 or 6 chances and he gets that one, and that one wins you the game or earns you a point or 3, you take that all the time. And you've got to get in those positions to miss the chances, and at least he's getting in those positions. And as I always say, if he was more clinical, he probably wouldn't be in MLS, or if he was, he probably wouldn't be at us, and he'd be going over and playing in Europe, and he'd be involved with the national team a lot more. So you've got he's having the standout period of his career.
Yeah.
And it's great that he's having it at Vancouver, and he's such a nice guy as well, that you just wish all the best for him. But the partnership that him and Ryan Gauld have formed, and the almost telepathic they know where each other are. It's just been a joy to watch the past 2 seasons. And I just hope he can keep it going. We keep thinking, oh, he can't keep this up. But he is. So fair play to him. So
he did have that. He did have that one lull in that second season or whatever, but
and he had another header in the first half that was the old 50p head that was going on about last week that didn't trouble the Seattle goal at all. But who cares? He scored this one. It was 2-0, and the Whitecaps are home and dry by that point. And if you had any doubt that 10-man Seattle could get back into it, 3 minutes later they were down to 9 men. And I'm going to pick my words carefully. I know what I'd like to say about this. And I joke on the show, I love a heavy challenge. And I'd send the guys out to just go in. Now, there's going in with a hard challenge, and there's whatever Alex Roldan did here, which was horrendous, disgusting, and I will be amazed if he doesn't get at least one more extra game tagged onto that suspension, because that was reckless, it was dangerous, and no hyperbole here, that could have broken Ali Ahmed's leg. That was
it's
born
quite
out
the
of frustration.
Yeah, it's quite the opposite of what happened in the first half.
Yeah,
right?
like Jason Reagan, you feel,
challenge.
and I genuinely feel sorry for him because he didn't mean that at all. It was just clumsy. This seemed meant, and Brian Schmetzer afterwards kind of indicated, he basically said, that was stupid, that's not smart. He went on
and
to
it was
say,
right in front of him.
Yeah, he said, like, they've got 9 games coming up in 27 days. And he said, if it wasn't for that, you'd be making him sit to think about what he's done and he'd lose his starting spot. But because of needs must, he's probably going to get rotated back in. But Schmetzer is not happy. Yeah. Schmetzer actually brought it up before anyone asked about it. He just wanted to get that out there. But I just thought that was an absolutely horrendous tackle. And it was born out of frustration. You could tell he was frustrated. He made no attempt to get the ball. And for me, he'll definitely get a 2 game. And it's whether they even give him a 3 game.
Yeah. Bundesliga is one of those leagues where every straight red is an automatic 3 game. And I'm not saying MLS should do that, but if it's a 2 yellows, it's 1 game. If it's a straight red, it's a 3 game suspension.
I mean, it looked,
which I think helps with.
Yeah, it looked bad.
Sorry, it helps
when
with,
you saw it live. Like before you saw the replay, it looked horrendous. And then you see the replay and you're like, oh, geez. My first thought was, I hope Ali's okay, because I genuinely thought that he was, like, he's just coming back from injury and it's like, you don't want him out again. He's been so good. But Brent mentioned Brian Schmetzer a few times there. Let's hear a little bit of post-game audio now from the gaffers. First of all, we'll hear from Vanni Sartini, and then we'll hear from Seattle's Brian Schmetzer.
The last time you guys won here was March 2016.
Yeah.
How special is it to get a win like that?
Yeah, it's special. I was still living in Italy in March 2016, so it's a long time ago. And it's special. We also, because we didn't came here and steal a victory, we fully deserve it. First half, we were in charge of the game, being the team that were playing better, and because we were playing better, and we received a lot of fouls, and that's the reason why they got 2 red cards, and of course they helped in the fact that we played in numerical advantage. But I have to say that it's very tricky when they get a red card at the end of the first half. In fact, if you remember, they had a play, we were a little bit like at the end of the first half, and we risked something on the free kick. So I told the guys to be extremely focused on the second half and to do basically something that is counterintuitive, that is keep possession a lot and having a lot of patience when we have the ball, and being extremely aggressive when we don't have the ball. And that's the reason why we scored the 2 goals, being extremely aggressive when we didn't have the ball, pressing, winning twice the ball very high and scoring. So I'm really happy.
I guess how important was a return of that identity of pressing high, winning both goals, like you mentioned, and frustrating Seattle. They get 2, kind of frustration red cards.
Yeah,
making a lot of tackles. what does that kind of say about the way you guys want to play, that you're able to kind of?
Yeah, we worked the entire week to be a little bit more aggressive, because in the game against the Galaxy, we were a little bit passive, especially in the first half. We let them play too much, and we were just defending in our final third. So we said that it was imperative for us to, especially, of course, not pressing like crazy, but when they were playing the ball from the side back to Ragen or back to Yelmar, boom, to go there with Brian and put pressure and being aggressive with the two center midfielders, Pedro and Andres. And again, we did extremely well. And even when we were 11v11, I think we were the best team. So I think we go away from here with 3 points, deserved 3 points, big, not only for the league, but also for the Cascadia Cup. So, that couldn't be better.
That's 3 road games now, 3 wins. And given that the away form wasn't the greatest the past 2 years, what has been the key to some road success this season?
Yeah, this year we're better, but I gotta say that our very efficient media department told me before the game, I didn't know, that in the last 10 months we've been the best team in MLS on the road. Because in the second part of the season last year, we did 4 wins: LAFC, Chicago, Toronto, and Portland. And so in the last 13 games away, we scored 24 points, 7 wins, 3 ties, and 3 losses. So, and there's no team in the league that is better than us. So I would say that the form away, it's not a difference from last year. It's a difference from the first half of last year. And it coincidentally happened when last year we switched from the back 4 to the back 3. I don't know if it's the reason. I don't know if that is the reason why. I think that this year, what is different than last year, that we come on the road and we are in charge of the game. It happened in Dallas, it happened in San Jose, it happened here. So, we'll try to do the same in New York. It's going to be really hard. They're doing a fantastic job so far. But, it's exciting.
Yeah, Brian, what did you make of the way your team reacted to the red card? The first one.
The first one? I mean, Jordan has a chance in the 50th minute. A couple of, moments, but I don't know. I mean, what I didn't like was, that we were savvy. We were trying to, figure out ways how to be better. Although, again, a chance from Jordan comes from Christian, getting himself inside the penalty box. We talked at halftime about, long throw-ins into the box and just little things to try and change the game. But what I didn't like was necessarily, there didn't seem to be as much determination as there should have been. You guys, somebody asked me the question about, when João Paulo got fouled in Dallas and Stephen Fry gets clobbered and a couple other guys gets clobbered, and we're not upset about it. And it's something that we need to try and change. Guys need to be upset when things happen, not in the wrong way, because I'm sure someone's going to ask me about Alex Roldan, and that was stupid. That's not smart. So somewhere, Jeremiah, we need to have a little bit more emotion. At the end of the game, Josh was running around and, should have scored, could have scored. That would have been kudos to the effort that kid put in the game. I think the guys tried. He didn't give up. But it certainly wasn't a smart performance.
Brian, in a game like this, how then do you balance discipline and challenging the players? Because there are obviously some self-inflicted wounds here. And then how do you challenge the discipline and challenging the players so that, like you say, they have to have that determination from within?
Well, it's going to be hard, Maz, because we have potentially 9 games in like 27 days or 28 days, and it's going to be hard. Normally you would take guys that do not smart things and sit them down and put someone else on there. And if that guy plays well, you know, the guy has to think about the starter, the supposed starter has to think about, well, geez, I better start playing better. But we're not going to have that because we're going to need to have everybody available and rotate the squad with all of the games that are coming up. So it's a little challenging. The message, tried to send it, that stuff's not going to happen again. I've been through some spells as a coach where your team plays a little undisciplined, and we're going to work on that. Some of those things are going to change, but how do you do it? You know, that's always the trick.
You've been a player, but having, you know, a bad result effort, playing right away, that also gives you an opportunity as a player to change things and atone.
Yeah, but Albert and Alex and Jackson won't get that opportunity. And then we've got DC, Philly, tight turnaround. So everybody in that locker room that's able to play will get a chance to play and hopefully vent some frustration on their next opponent.
Yeah, I guess you sort of alluded to this, but I mean, how would you assess the danger of this really unraveling from here and getting worse?
Oh, because we had 2 tough road games. I mean, Philly ain't going to be easy. So, you know, look, it's early, but time is ticking. Told them that in there. But they have to actually think about it, reflect, and, you know, make sure that they're all pulling in the right direction as well. So it's going to be my task, my job, to get them all to pull in the same direction, all at the same time, with cohesion, both defensively and offensively. Not many people are talking about the tactics tonight, but, you know, we need to be better in all phases, and that's on me. So I'll make sure that the team is together, and I'll make sure they all understand how we want them to play. And then hopefully we can pull ourselves out of this.
You brought up the tactics, and the reality is that they haven't worked this year. Is it time to throw it away and to rebuild it, or are we at a position where we're going to stick with this particular attack and formation and approach until something breaks through?
We'll address all of that. We've talked about it in different parts of the season already. It's not like we haven't thought about it. So if we need to tweak it, if we need to try and change it, you know, we're still a little incomplete without De La Vega. You know, we'll wait to see what his inclusion in the group does, what impact that has. But in the interim, we'll look at all options.
He's the gaffer. You can't try it on with him. He's the gaffer. Even when he's on a limb. He's the gaffer. When his back's against the wall, has the answer to it all. He's the gaffer.
So the gaffer's there, and as mentioned, Schmetzer cut a very frustrated figure. Not at the refs at all, but with his team. He said, "What I didn't like was there didn't seem to be as much determination as there should have been." And he went on to basically say he's not getting the reaction out of his team that he's wanting. Now, some of the questions from the Seattle media there, like they're throwing out words like crisis and how do you stop the season unraveling now? It's game 8 of 34 for them. Is that like an overreaction, or are they right to be concerned? Because we've seen Seattle come good. The year they won the MLS Cup, they were bottom of the West by the midway point.
Yeah, but I think you're right that they've been worse before. But I think there's concerns that just maybe I think how bad they've been. You know,
and whether Schmetzer can get the reaction out of them.
Exactly. Yeah, and I also think it's also a little bit of just who they have, right? Like, and what they have, and yeah, it's hard to see them being much better than what they are right now without some drastic changes, whether that's something Schmetzer does or more likely other players, or maybe some of the squad being added to in the summer.
It was a little odd, I thought, that the substitution that they made was to take Rui Diaz off. Because as soon as he went off, they had nothing. There was just like no creativeness at all in that team. Obviously, you have to take someone off to put another defender on, but who wouldn't want?
Who wouldn't want Rui Diaz?
Well, obviously, Brian Schmetzer yesterday against the Whitecaps. But yeah, they're in tough just now. The Whitecaps, the only team with 100% away record in all of MLS, 3 wins from their 3 road games so far. That was also their 3rd overall clean sheet. Now, listening to the LA San Jose game tonight and the Fox Sports commentators, they were looking at the table after the game and how everything stands. And their view on Vancouver was Vancouver's got 5 wins so far, but they're against Seattle, Portland, Toronto, San Jose and Dallas. And out of those 5 teams, only Toronto are above the playoff line in their conference. And they've been quite up and down, and they were also dreadful against the Whitecaps. So they don't know that the Whitecaps are as good as their position suggests. But they did make a very good... I don't know if I agree with that, I would say, but they also made a good point. They're now going to play New York Red Bulls, who have been outstanding to start the season. So I hate the phrase statement game, statement win, statement performance. I don't like that narrative at all. But this is the kind of game that if they can go there, get a point, get 3 points, it does make a statement of such that, hey, we are the real deal this year.
Like those criticisms you heard on the broadcast, they're not factually wrong in terms of their statement.
There's some validity to them.
Yeah, but like we always say, you can only beat who's in front of you. They don't make the schedule, right? So
yeah,
they can only beat who's in front of them, right? And so they've done that for the most part. They've collected the points. We talk about the points early in the season. Give you some flexibility going forward and help set you up well for what is a grind of an MLS season. And yeah, I think that if you're a Whitecaps fan, you don't lose sleep over comments like that, right? Like,
no, it's a long season as well, and I don't care who they've played. I'd rather get my points on the board early. It's like I've said this for years, and I've said this many times on the show. Look at Dallas. A lot of the times, Dallas got in the playoffs because of their early season points, and it's like we don't know what's going to happen in the summer. We don't know what's going to happen in May because the Whitecaps are going to be playing 2 games a week between MLS and Canadian Championship. And you're just a couple of injuries away to your best players being derailed and stuff. So get these points on the board now. They're sitting 2nd in the West. They're on 16 points from their 8 games played. They're leading the Supporters' Shield standings again in points per game. They're 2 points behind LA in the standings, and they've played a game more. Sitting 2nd, as I said, but you then go down the table and they've got a 5-point cushion over Kansas City, who are sitting in 10th. And we'll look at just the other results in the West just quickly just now. I don't know, because obviously you were at Brickcan, I don't know how much you've seen. I've only seen a little bit and I haven't had a chance to watch all the highlights. I did watch the Columbus-Portland game. And, it was a barn burner of a game. I really, really enjoyed that one. That's one I would recommend folk to see the highlights from. 2-2 draw. Portland looked very good in this one. They led twice before Columbus tied it up in the 74th minute to earn the point. But they played well on the road, and Phil Neville certainly seems to be kind of turning things around a little bit there. Elsewhere in the Western Conference, I was watching the MLS 360 show, and
your favorite?
I like it because it's something that's been long overdue.
Did it run for the duration of the match?
Again, they cut it off before the later game started, which still pisses me off. It also pisses me that they say goal alert and then cut to a game and you see a team on the ball and it's like, well, I think I know what's happening now. Just say, we're going to go over to Columbus, Portland. And it
Yeah.
could be a chance, and it might not be a goal. But as soon as you flash up goal alert, that kind of spoils it a bit for me. But because there was no particular game that I really wanted to watch, I kind of watched that. And they had the Columbus-Portland game up for a big chunk of it, so that was good. They also showed a lot of the stuff from RSL Chicago. Now, RSL right now are playing some beautiful football. Chicho Arango, I think, could be the best pickup, along with Fafa Pico of the off-season. 2 more goals in this one for Salt Lake. They had 3 goals by half-time at Chicago. And it's not only that they're scoring and they're getting wins, they're playing some beautiful football. Like, they really are moving the ball around superbly.
Yeah.
So they're moving up the standings as well. Austin, on a bit of a run just now, went to Houston, got an 86th minute winner in the derby. Rigoni got the goal for them in one of the many Texan derbies, so that was a good one. KC St. Louis, I watched a little bit of that, and I saw it up to 2-2, and I haven't seen the final goals of it, but that was a really good back and forth as well. KC took the lead in the derby game. St. Louis hit back. St. Louis then took the lead just before half time. Then Kansas City went 3-2 up, and then Totland earned a point 2 minutes into stoppage time for St. Louis as well. It was a great atmosphere because you had both sets of fans there. There was some really nice football played. Enjoyed this one. Haven't seen anything of Colorado Dallas, but the Rapids got another win. They're unbeaten in 4 now. 2-1 win. Goal just before half-time, goal just after half-time. Musa pulled one back late for Dallas. But Colorado, again, another team starting to turn things round a little bit. And late comeback on Saturday for LAFC against the team that the Whitecaps are going to be playing this coming week. New York took the lead through a Segura own goal in the 8th minute. They held on to that to the 67th minute. Buanga got his first goal, and then Forsberg in the 81st minute looked like he might have got the points for New York before Buanga, 5 minutes in stoppage time, sealed the deal, sealed a point, and I haven't had a chance to watch all the highlights of that. I saw Buanga's winning goal, but I kind of want to sit back and watch that, especially with the Whitecaps playing the Red Bulls next week. 2 games today affecting the Western Conference. First up, Minnesota went and hammered Charlotte in Charlotte, a 3-0 win, led at the half, and then Lode and Dotson in the second half in a 4-minute spell put Minnesota comfortably 3-0 up. And then, I don't know if you've seen any of this tonight, Zach, LA Galaxy, San Jose?
I know the result, but yeah, I haven't seen.
Barn burner of a match. This was a really good game. So it was on TSN. So when I got home from the Provincial Cup game I was at,
I think I have it on the PVR, but yeah.
Fast forwarded through to get up to date, and oh boy. So LA looked in cruise control. They were 2 goals up at the 24th minute. Gabriel Peck and then Pencil again. Rodriguez pulled one back with a header for San Jose in the 32nd minute. Yoshida had actually put them 3-0 up by that point, and it was Rodriguez that scored 2 minutes later to make it 3-1. And then going into the second half, Ricky Puig, nice solo goal from him, made it 4-1, and you thought, done and dusted. But 2 minutes later, San Jose pulled one back. Then Eric Zavaleta gets sent off for... I thought he had pulled Ebobisi back in the box, and then when you see it from the perfect angle, he has his arm wrapped around Ebobisi's arm and tugs him down to the ground. And he's like saying, what? I didn't do anything. And it's a penalty, it's a red card. San Jose score, set up a storming finish, and San Jose could have sneaked a point. And if San Jose had sneaked a point, the Whitecaps would have been top of the West. But as it is, the Galaxy are top of the West on 18 points. Whitecaps second on 16, Salt Lake on 15 and looking very good. Colorado on 15 and 4th and looking very good. Then you've got Minnesota 14, Houston 13, LAFC 12, Austin 12, St. Louis 12. Now, below the playoff line, you've got Kansas City, Portland, Seattle, Dallas, and San Jose. Now, of those 5, I still think Seattle can turn it around, but Kansas City and Portland, I definitely think will make a push for the playoff spots, which is why it's so important to have these points on the board early from a Whitecaps point of view. San Jose already are looking cut adrift. They're 9 points below the playoff line, and they're 15 points off LA Galaxy at the top, and you just don't see how they're going to turn this around at all.
All I was able to do was watch some highlights and the one game from the East. But I saw the little upstart side for Miami, saw them get another victory.
I only saw the first goal in that, which wasn't for Miami.
Right.
But
they had this little guy from South America scored a couple goals.
see, every team should have a little guy from South America that can score goals.
And then I watched the whole game basically of the other TSN game there, Montreal and
Orlando.
Yes, Orlando. That's right.
I know the score of that. I've got it on the PVR, but I haven't seen any of it yet.
Yeah, there's some interesting moments there.
Actually, I did see. I saw Montreal's second goal and I saw Orlando's second goal in the MLS 360. Actually,
Montreal's first goal, I think, was the best, if my memory's not wrong.
Yeah, but it's been a good season. I've been really enjoying it so far. From a Whitecaps point of view, I don't think there's a lot of negatives that we could take from that Seattle game. Maybe disappointing that it finished just 2-0, with them having the one-man advantage for so long and then the two-man advantage for 15 plus minutes, but that's just a small gripe. I do want to say how delighted I was to see Jay Herdman make his first team debut. I've watched Jay come through the academy, WFC 2. He is a prospect. He's not just there because of who his dad is. He is a top talent. The only thing that may go against him might be his frame. He's never really bulked up. He is very small and could maybe get blown over in a wind gale, but he has got a sweet strike on him. And what would have capped that off for me yesterday would have been if he could have got a goal on his debut as well. But it was great to see him get the call up, and like 2 goals up, 2 men up. That was the perfect environment to throw him in, and he didn't look out of place.
No, I thought the Whitecaps were going to get a third in that game.
Yeah,
and it would have been brilliant if it was him.
Yeah. Jay also actually started for WFC 2 tonight against Tacoma Defiance. The Twos losing that one on a penalty shootout after a 0-0 draw. But yeah, he's put a lot of action down in Washington this weekend. Now, when Toronto were here at the start of the month, I actually spoke to his dad, John. I don't know if you've heard of him. He's a coach somewhere out east.
An upstart coach.
Yeah, his team's doing okay. Ups and downs. But no, I spoke to John just about how proud he was at Jay's development with the Whitecaps. Now, obviously, this was before he made his debut. Here's what he had to tell me. Just how proud are you of Jay at the moment? He's made the breakthrough with the Whitecaps. He's had a couple of call-ups. He's on the cusp maybe of the first team. Been at a World Cup, coming back from that injury. Just how proud are you of him?
I'm always a proud dad. His journey keeps us sane in this mad world. I'm really proud to come back off the injury and then to be able to get on the bench for the Caps. That was a big step for him. I just showed a bit of his resilience and fight. But he's still got a long way to go. But yeah, I mean, on nights like this, tough nights like this, you're able to turn to your family and obviously see and get something from, whether it's my daughter who jumps horses or my son who scores goals. So yeah, thanks for the question, because it's lovely being back with the family.
John Herdman there, just proud papa, talking about his son. And when it's bad times, whether it was with TFC or Canada, he's always got his family doing well, as he says there, that puts a smile on his face and grounds him and reminds him what it's all about. And I'm sure he watched on very proud. I missed John being at the WFC 2 games. We'd sit and chat during games sometimes and got good insight in that as well. But I'm really excited to see if Jay can push on from this now. The opportunity's there. We do need more depth in the midfield. He can play an attacking role as well as a midfield role. He's worked so hard to come back from that ACL injury last year, which when I saw that live, it was like horrendous. And he let out a yell and you knew it was a bad one. All the best to Jay, but that just capped off a good weekend for the Whitecaps. What lies in store against New York Red Bulls next week? I can't wait to find out. I think that's going to be one of the games of the week in MLS, and very much looking forward to it. But that is it for the Whitecaps chat. That is it for the MLS chat. We're going to turn our attention to the Canadian Premier League now, and the first of two featured interviews with a former Whitecap, former MLS first-teamer, Matteo Campagna. We'll be back chatting to him after this.
Hi, I'm Jay Herdman, and you're listening to the AFTN Soccer Show.
Maybe I didn't think we'd fall this far. Well, here we are. Here we are.
Anybody remember when it all was real? True rock, Woodstock in a bogging field, or the MTV Unplugged with frontmen OD'd on drugs. Elvis, Beatlemania, you never see a show go crazier. Nothing like that Sabbath sound. Freddie would medley to a massive crowd. We opened doors with Rolling Stones, toured with the Dead in mobile homes. Kiss your old war paint goodbye, look up to the sky as eagles fly. Hey, hey, my, explain why we replaced the stars with AI. I can hear the deep greats rolling their graves, they don't make them like they did in the olden days. In the 90s that grungy sound took us all back down to the underground. It was overdue, punk rock part 2. What a time, what an awesome view. Then new metal kept us all in good fettle. The millennium sure was mental. Keep your rainbow, I just want the pot of gold. Somebody bring back rock and roll. We found treasure lost in hate. We got rough even when I played. We stood out in the rain and braved the cold. I miss pleasure, I miss pain. I miss love and I miss hate. I miss the good old days of heart and soul. Bring back rock and roll.
Welcome back to the AFTN Soccer Show on CITR Radio 101.9 FM, brought to you in partnership with recoveryfamilylaw.ca. Based out of Surrey, Recovery Family Law for all your family legal needs. And kicking off this part, we've gone back to Scotland, some time for some good old Scottish rap. Glasgow rapper Mog with a new song from him, Rock and Roll, a YouTube exclusive on Word's SOS YouTube channel, Sons of Scotland. Mog does have a new album coming out soon, Versus the Gods, and we've had some really good feedback over the last couple of times that we featured Mog on the show. So there's been quite a lot of new tracks drop on the SOS YouTube channel, so go and check them out and go and check out the album when it comes out very soon. But we're going to get back to the football chat now, and we're turning our attention away from the Whitecaps, away from Major League Soccer and to the Canadian Premier League. In particular, in this part, Vancouver FC, as it's time for the first of our two feature interviews in this episode. And it is with a former Whitecap, Matteo Campagna. Matteo, still just 19 years old, but such a varied career that he's had in those early years. A Surrey United product, joined the Whitecaps Academy in 2017, signing an MLS homegrown contract with the Whitecaps in April 2021. That first season with the Whitecaps didn't see time on the pitch, was loaned to York United in August of that year, making 5 appearances for the Nine Stripes before coming back to Whitecaps. For the 2022 and 2023 seasons, he mostly played his football in MLS Next Pro with WFC2, making 29 appearances, scoring the 1 goal, but he did make his first team debut March 15th, 2023 in the CONCACAF Champions League against Honduran side Real España down in Honduras. Came on as a substitute in that game, got his first and only taste of the first team. Come the end of 2023's MLS Next Pro season, Matteo was one of a number of guys with WFC2, some of whom had first team MLS contracts, such as himself and Cameron Habibullah. And the club basically sat down, decided what the futures were going to be for these guys. And in most of the cases, it was a mutual decision that the players felt they needed first team football to develop their careers. Didn't look like it was really coming with the Whitecaps, so the time was made for them to move on. For Matteo, had a little bit of a training stint over in Italy, as did his WFC2 teammate Simone Massi, who is still down there, I believe. But Matteo came back to the lower mainland, was trialling with Vancouver FC, and it was announced just earlier this month that he signed a 1-year contract with VFC with club options for both 2025 and 2026. Yet to make an appearance for the Eagles, he has been an unused sub in their first 2 CPL games. I got a chance to sit down with Matteo this week just to chat about his career so far, joining VFC, and a look to the future. So go stick the kettle on, grab your biscuit of choice, sit back and enjoy our chat with Vancouver FC centre-back Matteo Campagna. So, Matteo, good to see you again. How are you enjoying life at Vancouver FC?
Yeah, I'm loving it. I've been here for a couple of weeks now, but no, it's for me, I'm happy to be here and that we got a fantastic group. Everyone's really, really into it and we're super focused. And I think it's a great place for me to be right now. Since, we spoke, 2 years ago now. And
yeah,
then to now, I'm happy. I'm close to home as well. I know got the family supporting me and the guys. So yeah, I'm happy, man.
So I had a look to see when it was that we chatted. So it was like May 2022. So coming up for 2 years since I chatted with you and Christian. And obviously a lot has happened and changed in that time. So we'll go over a little bit of that. I mean, first thing really to talk about is you left the Whitecaps, you had the MLS deal, you saw at least some action for the first team and in Champions League as it was then as well.
Yeah.
Talk about what that experience was like for you playing for the first team in Champions League action against Real Esteli.
I think I'm very, fortunate to have been with the first team for the age I was, 16. I think it was very valuable, and my time being there, throughout the academy and stuff like that, and that's what us, the homegrowns and the young guys, that's what we look forward to at the Whitecaps, and making your senior debut, signing with the first team. That's the main goal. That's what everyone from the academy wants, and for that to happen, I think I was fortunate, and making my debut in the CONCACAF Champions League. I think it was a great environment. That game it's crazy. The fans they're unreal out there, and it was a cool experience. But no, yeah, I really enjoyed it, and like I said, very, very fortunate to sign at that age. So
I was going to say, like a baptism of fire. You play your first first team game in Honduras, of all places. And we know what the fans are like down there, but that must have just been a very unique thing. Had you played down there before, like with Canada at youth level?
Yeah, so the U20s we were out there, and it's just similar. Like it's a very like emotional place. You know, the
Yeah.
fans they're really into it. Just the environment. You get that real CONCACAF feeling. You know, all of our national team guys, they all know what it feels like, and playing out there, it's different. But you get that good feeling about playing out there, and yeah, so it's amazing.
So fast forward then to the end of last season. Now, come the end of last season, when Axel spoke about the releases at the club, he talked about a number of the guys felt they kind of wanted to move on because they wanted to get first team football, they wanted to have regular action. Did you fall into that category? Did you feel it was the time to take a different step in your career?
Yeah, I think mutually, we that's just kind of what happened in that situation, and that's how I felt. At my stage in my career, I think I needed to move and get first team minutes. I think that's super important at my age and my position, especially. It's a different game now, and everyone needs to be playing. And the club, I think it was kind of the same agreement with myself. So, but yeah, a lot of guys fell into that category as you said. So yeah.
So how did it come about with Vancouver FC? Obviously, local team. There's two in BC, at least giving you the options to kind of stay in the province. So when did you first know that they were interested in bringing you in? We knew you were in the pre-season. We saw you in some of the games before the official announcement. So I was hoping that it was going to become a permanent deal. But when did you know of their interest, and when did you know you were getting offered a contract with them?
Yeah, earlier in the year, I think they made it like pretty noticeable that they wanted me to come in. But I was, going around, and obviously it's a off season, you got to process a lot of things, and see what your option is. But no, they kind of gave me a sense, what was it, like middle of March, I'd say, that they wanted me to come in and finish the preseason with the guys, and essentially look at me and see how I interacted with the team and the staff and pretty much the environment. And after a week and a half, they wanted me to really be a part of the team, and contribute to the season. So they said they were happy with me, and that's just kind of how the whole process went down. It was kind of quick and smooth. Because personally I enjoyed it a lot. I think I integrated with the lads and everyone pretty quick, and we have a great group, so it's pretty hard not to. So yeah, that's just kind of how it went.
There's going to have been obviously a lot of folk that you knew as well, like Elijah is there and
Yeah.
Vasco from WFC too. So I mean, that would have helped make the integration a lot easier, I would assume as well.
Yeah, no, for sure. These, we have a lot of locals. I think it's what, 13 now, and we share a lot of the same kind of careers in a way. I know with Zach Verhoeven too, me and him kind of connected in a way because both Cloverdale and playing Worcester United to the Whitecaps, and kind of the same thing. But no, it's great to have some of the Whitecaps boys too around. Elijah, Vasco, but a lot of guys, even Anthony White. Me and him were very close growing up with our brothers. So a lot of the guys I know from previously, and who have been around, and I've seen or known. But yeah, it's awesome.
Oh, I'm talking a brothers, Christians over in Finland just now. Did you think about maybe looking at options in Europe? I know Simone's over there in Italy just now, or
No, yeah, I was in Italy for almost a month, I'd say. I was out there for training with a Serie C team, so the third division. But yeah, no, I've definitely thought about it. It's seeing what's the best spot for me in my career right now. But yeah, Simone's out there, and my brother's really enjoying it. And I think it's just more of a process out there. You got to really work your way up. But it's something I'd be open to in the future if that's a possibility. So
yeah. So you've come into Vancouver FC, and there's been a huge defensive overhaul for the team, a much needed one. It's got to be said after last season. But you've gone from an environment where you were playing regularly, and if you went in the team one week, you were pretty much going to be in the team the next week. So you don't have that here, and you've got so much competition. How do you keep yourself sort of mentally sharp to be ready for when you are called upon?
No, I think I try to take it, in the most positive way I can. Playing with David, Rocco, these guys, experienced guys, and I think every day is just what I realize is that the season is, I've been in it before in the CPL. I know it's a longer season in a way because all the games are super compact, and there's games consistently from what I've seen, and I think knowing that I'll get my chance and believing I'll get my chance is what kind of keeps me going. And these guys push me every day too, and I kind of had it similar with the first team at Whitecaps. I wasn't
Yeah.
Consistently in the squad or the 18, so I had to find myself and to know what suits me best in those kinds of situations. So not to get too hard on myself or stuff like that to push me in a negative mindset. And I think it's really key as once you become a real professional in your everyday, and a lot of the guys help you with that too. The older guys that I've learned, at the Whitecaps, I've had lots of good mentors being around them, and I think it's good that I find myself now in this position because I know to push myself every day. And Ashvin, he repeats that a lot to all the players. Even if you're a starter or non-starter, you have to push every day. It's training or exhibition games. It doesn't matter. And I think that's really stuck with me and pushing myself as a professional. So
The Matteo that played briefly for York in 2021 to the Matteo that we're going to see this season in the CPL, how do you feel you've grown as a player in the last couple of years?
I think, I was a kid back then in a way, you could say. We have Nico here and we've been talking about it, but I've definitely seen, the maturity in myself, on and off the field for sure. And, leadership in a way, I've learned that throughout my career so far and all the experience that I've had. I feel like I'm much more of a, leader. But even parts of my games, like defensively, I've had to get way stronger, like physically stronger, even mentally. So I think a lot of aspects have changed over that time, but I'm happy they did, and it's good. But yeah.
I mean, you're still so young. You're just 19. It's like I'm almost three times your age, just really feeling old. But it's like talking to guys like Grady on the team as well. I feel really old.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's a good mix. The squad this season, they've brought in some really good experience in all areas of the park. You've got like a model professional in Renan Garcia that we always talk so much about on our show, that he's just a model professional. It does feel like a really good environment now for you to learn from these guys, to take the step, and I guess really once you get any opportunities, just to seize them with both hands.
No, yeah, I agree. I think from top to bottom, we got TJ, Grady, Joey, all the young guys to Renan and all them, like unbelievable. I honestly think it's a really good environment, and it's a lot of good people too who are pushing each other. There's no negativity, and I think that's really key. We're all focused on the same success, and that's how we get better each and every day. Like everyone pushing each other, and having the same team goal. And if we're doing well as a team, it's better for individuals because we can push each other on, and people see that outside the league, inside the league, everyone notices that as, if you're better as a collective, you can be better as an individual. And that's the way we're all seeing it. So
Yeah.
I think
I mean, Paris spoke on after the home opener about how it feels like a family. And like
Yeah.
just like speaking to you guys and being around the team, it does feel like that. And we thought the team was going to do well this year because we know the guys that's been signed and it's strong. But I think maybe elsewhere you maybe flew under the radar a bit. Getting off to such a strong start, I think folk are kind of sitting up and taking notice of the team now, but it must feel within the squad that you're on the cusp of something really exciting this season.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I agree. I think we all have fire in our bellies, each and every one of us spoke before that game, and we all had something to say, and the things really made us come together. And I think we all truly believe in what we can do. And we'll take we don't care what anyone says about, the outside. We will hear it, and then we'll use it as motivation. And I think we've done really well. It's the first game, but I think we're gonna have a lot of consistency and maturity as a team to push ourselves and show everyone what we're really about. We're coming for anything in the Canadian Championship. We're gonna be pushing ourselves as much as we can and showing the league and everyone else what we're about. So
Yeah, I don't obviously want to get too far ahead, which I'm bad for doing. But talking a Canadian Championship, there is the prospect of playing the Whitecaps, getting a game at BC Place against them. For you and the other guys, that must just really light a fire under you, the chance to have that.
yeah. Oh man, we're hoping for that. Honestly,
So am I.
yeah, I know. I think it'll be an amazing game. I think, there's Pacific and Vancouver Derby, but Vancouver, I think would be something special. And I think, the fans would love it too as well. Yeah, they got to pick, so I think, but for us, I think all the guys, like even, the older guys who played at Whitecaps too, I think like everyone wants it. And we all together, we're waiting for it. You know what I mean? But time will tell for sure.
And there's some big differences between obviously being at VFC and being at Whitecaps too. One of them being, as much as I loved going to Swangard and watching the games there, and it's just a special place, there's not a great atmosphere. There's not a lot of fans turned up. Whereas now you've got fans and you've got like over 4,000 for the opener and a good atmosphere there. Being local and having so many local guys there, what did you, like for the opener, because that's all we've got to go on just now, what did that feel like for you, just like warming up, just knowing there's a big crowd there, knowing you've got friends and family there, and you're playing for your local team?
Yeah, I think it's amazing seeing the progression of, professional soccer and, in BC, but even in Canada. I think it's really good. I spoke with my family as well, and they said there's a real environment here, and like with the Eagle, with Hercules flying around, and
Yeah.
we got and all the fans, the flares. Like I think we're building a real environment here, and I think it's awesome to see in your hometown, and yeah, no, it's great, especially as young guy. Like we've seen pretty much to come up with CPL, and I think it's moving very, very fast, and the fans are coming in, and yeah, it's honestly great. It's a great environment.
Last couple of things. You've you scored pre-season. I know it was just against the Fraser Valley team, but a goal's a goal. It's like that's something. I think that was you only scored one goal for Whitecaps too. Is that something that you're kind of really looking to add to your game? Because obviously we saw a couple of defenders score on Sunday, and if you can add that string to your bow, it's going to put you up the pecking order a little bit.
No, yeah, that's been one of my goals. Last year or the year before, I was working a lot with the guys at the Whitecaps. With Florian, once he moved in towards a coaching role. Reviewing film, working on a lot of aerial balls, a lot of headers, and or just timing of runs and stuff like that. And I think that's been a real goal of mine. I remember speaking at a school visit the other day, and I was telling it to the kids, saying this is one of my goals, and I went and I achieved it, and then it happened again in the preseason. So I think I've been really working at that to add that to my game, and it's a real key focus that I've been keen to keep adding to my tally, and I want to keep working at it.
And just last thing, obviously you're going to have some personal goals that I won't push you on because that's yours, it's private. But what can you share about just your hopes and aspirations for the season as a whole, kind of for you and for the team?
Yeah, I think for me, I want to contribute to the team, whether I'm starting, not starting, not rostered. I think just being a part and supporting the guys, I think that's a hands down no brainer. I have to, contribute that in that way, in that regards. But for myself, I think personally, I want to get the chance to play as much as I can, and I have to do that by training as well as I can and, doing as good as I can. So I think just staying motivated, staying consistent, I think that's type of my goals that I've set for myself and standards as a professional too, I think is very key to help the team success. Because at the end of the day, the team is the most important. So yeah.
Thanks so much, Matteo. Good luck for the season to come. Really excited that you're with the team, and I can't wait to see you in action on the pitch. And fingers crossed we get that Vancouver Whitecaps game in the Canadian Championship.
I know. We will.
Great stuff from Matteo there. As I mentioned in the intro to that, yet to actually play for the Eagles in a game, was an unused sub in their first two matches, which of course Vancouver won both of, only letting in one goal, as Afshin Gopi kept unchanged sides for the two games against Valour and Halifax. You have to feel, though, Matteo's time to make his Vancouver FC debut will come very soon. Could it even come this Tuesday in the Canadian Championship game at Cavalry FC? We'll find out soon enough. But we'll be continuing the Vancouver FC and the CPL chat in the next part as we bring you our second feature interview, this time with CPL Commissioner Mark Noonan, and we'll be back with all of that after we take you back to 1974.
Hi, I'm Gabriel Batar. You are listening to the AFTN show.
Zoo time, Ishia, new time. The mammals are your favorite time. You're running water tonight. Heartbeat, increasing heartbeat. You hear the thunder of stampeding rhinos, elephants, and tacky tigers. This town ain't big enough for the both of us. Heaven tell me who's gonna leave.
Welcome back to the AFTN Soccer Show on CITR Radio 101.9 FM, brought to you in partnership with recoveryfamilylaw.ca. And we've taken you back to 1974 to kick off this part, and it's actually one of my favourite songs from that year by former Artist of the Month here at AFTN, American brother Sparks, released this week 50 years ago. That was This Town Ain't Big Enough for the Both of Us, the opening track on the band's third studio album, Kimono My House, and still sounds as fantastic today as when I first heard it as a little boy all those many years ago. Elsewhere in the world of music 50 years ago, the number one single in both Canada and the US was MFSB featuring the 3 Degrees with The Sound of Philadelphia, the theme tune to the TV show Soul Train, while Terry Jacks' Season in the Sun was still number one over in the UK, although the last week And if you're a new listener to this show, or an occasional listener, and you're like, why are they talking about 1974? Well, of course, we are paying tribute to the 50th anniversary of Vancouver Whitecaps, taking you back in the last part of every show to 1974 with some music from that year, but also with the news that happened in Whitecaps land this particular week 50 years ago. So what did happen this week in 1974 in Whitecaps land? Well, with the inaugural NASL season just days away, the Whitecaps were still putting together their roster. They headed into this week, 2 weeks out from the start of the season, with 10 signed players. They did add to that, though, this week. Wednesday, April 24th, 1974, saw the Whitecaps announce the signing of 2 more players to their inaugural roster. 2 local lads. The first of them, 22-year-old defender Bruce Wilson of Coquitlam, and 23-year-old midfielder Doug Scorse. Scorse only played that one season for the Whitecaps, making 3 appearances in the Whitecaps' inaugural year in the NASL. Bruce Wilson, of course, a whole other story and a Canadian footballing legend. Wilson went on to make 20 appearances for the Whitecaps in their inaugural year, leading the appearance charts alongside Brian Gant. Leading the team, though, in minutes with 1,994. He had 1 goal and 1 assist to show from those games. Wilson went on to play 4 seasons for the Whitecaps, making 92 overall appearances, scoring 4 goals. Then had 2 seasons with Chicago Sting, 1 with the New York Cosmos, and then finished up his NASL career with 4 seasons with Toronto Blizzard. Wilson was a Canadian international when he joined the Whitecaps and still played for Canada all the way up to 1986, was part of that historic Canadian squad that played at the 1986 World Cup over in Mexico. After his playing career, Wilson went on to be the head coach of the University Vikes, been in charge of the Vikes for over 3 decades, just recently hanging up his boots a couple of years ago. An absolute footballing legend, and it was great to have him part of the Whitecaps in that first year. But the Whitecaps were also getting criticised by some of the local players for being slow to grab local talent. One of those players, Bobby Cram, spoke to the Vancouver Sun in their Thursday, April 25th edition, saying that the Whitecaps were guilty of dragging their feet in communications with himself and his teammates, and as a result, a couple of those local lads ended up signing for Seattle Sounders instead. Now, Cram was a 34-year-old veteran with a 17-year pro career under his belt, playing over in England for 12 seasons with West Brom, had also played in the NASL before with Vancouver Royals, and he really had a go at Whitecaps head coach Jim Easton, saying, "This is where I make my home, and this is where I want to play. Here's a guy from Miami, Easton, who pops his head into Vancouver and tells me I don't fit into his plans. Everyone here knows I'd be a valuable addition to the club. I'll tell you why Easton doesn't want me, and why he's signing so many young players. He doesn't want anybody around who might know a little more about the game than he does. I hope for Vancouver's sake that the team does well." Brutal attack there on Easton by Cram. Cram went on to join the Sounders for their inaugural season, making 5 appearances for them, and probably to the surprise of nobody listening to this, didn't ever sign for the Whitecaps or play for the Whitecaps at all. So the signings of Bruce Wilson and Doug Scorse took the Whitecaps roster up to 12 players. So at least they had a starting 11 just over a week out to the start of the season. The players had an intra-squad game on Thursday, April 25th, playing out a 1-1 draw. Victor Cordelia scoring for one of the teams, Chris Bennett scoring for the other. And taking part in that intra-squad game was player number 13 for the Whitecaps, because on that Thursday, the Whitecaps added a second goalkeeper to their roster, signing Greg Weber to a 1-year contract, 24-year-old Canadian. Weber was a dental student at UBC, where he played in goal for the Thunderbirds, had also played for Canada on several occasions, and was going to be sharing the goalkeeping duties with Bermudan Sam Newsom in that first season for the Whitecaps. Easton felt that Greg Weber had great potential and had really impressed him at the training sessions that they had. And Weber went on to make 3 appearances for the Whitecaps that first year in the NASL, and actually played 3 seasons overall for the Whitecaps, making 14 appearances in 1975 and 4 in 1976, his final year with the Caps. So 21 appearances overall, keeping 6 clean sheets in those as well. So not too bad a record for the man out of Winnipeg, Manitoba. And Weber's signing took the Whitecaps, as I mentioned, to 13 players for the year, 3 shy of the 16 players that Jim Easton wanted to carry over that first season. But he actually went on to have a squad of 19 in that first year. So with the club's first season just over a week away, the Whitecaps headed down the I-5 to play a 3-team round-robin friendly competition down in Seattle. The competition was made up of 3 of the new boys on the block, the Whitecaps, the Sounders and the San Jose Earthquakes. 50-minute games were the order of the day, and the Whitecaps played a scoreless draw with San Jose in the first game, then took to the field to beat the Sounders 2-0 in the second of the matches in the competition, with San Jose then defeating Seattle 2-0 in the final game. Having scored in the intra-squad game just 2 days before, Chris Bennett and Victor Cadea were on the score sheet again in that 2-0 win over Seattle. And the Whitecaps used all of the 17-man squad that they took down for that competition, with some of their local unsigned players hoping to catch Jim Easton's eye and impress. And with the real action kicking off in a week's time, Easton said he was impressed by what he saw from his Whitecap squad. The boys played well within themselves, and I'm confident going into next Sunday's opener against San Jose at Empire that they could do the business. But that was this week in Whitecaps land, 1974. So from the past right up to the present, and we're going to continue the Canadian Premier League chat. The CPL season, week 2 in the books. Not going to delve into all the ins and outs of the matches because we're going to bring out an extra podcast. But as things currently stand, 3 teams are unbeaten in the CPL, with Vancouver FC leading the way, 6 points from 6, a goal difference of +5. They're ahead of Forge and Pacific, the other 2 unbeaten sides. Atletico Ottawa, also unbeaten, but not with a 100% record. They're on 4 points. Cavalry, 5th on 1. And Halifax, York and Valour all looking for their first points of the season. So, unlike last year, where there was a lot of parity and a lot of draws in the early going, there's a couple of teams pulling away at the top this 6th season of the Canadian Premier League. And I think it's going to be a fantastic season. Really looking forward to what lies in store. Looking forward to seeing how competitive Vancouver FC are going to be. At the Vancouver-Halifax game on Thursday, I got a chance, myself and Felipe, to chat to CPL Commissioner Mark Noonan. So we're going to bring you that chat just now. So go stick the kettle on again, grab another biscuit of choice because you are worth it, and enjoy our second feature interview of the show with CPL Commissioner Mark Noonan. Mark, it's the 6th season of the CPL now, and you've got 1 week under the belt so far. It was a great first week, lots of good action, good crowds. What are you most looking forward to growth-wise for the league this year?
Continuing what we did last year. We came off the most successful year in the league's history. Attendance was up 19%, food and beverage was up, merchandise sales were up, the quality of play was up, and so we just need to continue building. I talk a lot about how, we're still a baby in the grand scheme of the football history, but we're starting to build these foundations, and the house is going to be beautiful, but it takes the foundation to start with. So we've got the foundation now, we've established ourselves, and we need to continue building that beautiful house.
The off-season, in some ways off the pitch, obviously wasn't ideal in terms of the Media Pro One Soccer deal and broadcasting and everything like that. How much was that a disruption to your plans going into this year, or are you able just to kind of push that to the back and just move on with other things?
I mean, it's business as usual. There's no kind of linear, this is an easy path, everything's going to line up perfectly for you. These are the things that you do when you're growing a league. I remember being the early days at MLS, and we had to go buy the time on ESPN and do all the production, and we got no love from SportsCenter. In fact, if we ever got any coverage on SportsCenter, it was usually laughing about all the foreign players rolling around because they're injured. I mean, it was worse than actually getting coverage because it was so negative. So, this is we're still in our infancy, and these are the things that you do to continue growing the league and getting the distribution that you need for your product.
Building on that, for a lot of people, that was sort of a little bit of a wake-up call, in the sense of, this is something that we've grown that's really special, and that kind of, for some people, threatened a little bit about whether it will continue to exist. But as this last week has shown, we can continue growing, and there's still teams that are wanting to play out there, players that want to grow. What have you sort of seen in terms of this first few weeks that have shown, no, we are here for the long run? This is sort of a chapter that we can show that we can grow from and show that we're still strong as a league.
We're as solid a league as we've ever been, and what you're seeing when you see guys like TJ Tahid, you've got the exceptional young talent rule, so we're giving this pathway to these young players. When you see a 17-year-old score for Forge down in Guadalajara in the CONCACAF Champions Cup, this league is giving we call it a league of opportunity for Canadian players, and we'll expand the league and give more and more opportunities, more pipeline. And it's amazing how this flywheel works, because the more clubs we have and more markets, the more players come into the pipeline, the more better players get trained, and that ends up helping the national team. And so it takes time. There's no silver bullet. All of a sudden we're going to be the English Premier League or La Liga, but you have to start somewhere, and that's where we are. We're at the beginning.
And a lot of people are also saying that this, when you go through these things in like a league, you go through cycles. I feel like you got through the first 5 years, now this 6th year is sort of like a beginning of a new cycle. What are some of the goals that you're maybe looking towards for the league to have in this sort of maybe second cycle, if you view it that way, from year 6 to 10?
There's goals on and off the field. The goals off the field are just looking at all our business metrics. Do more people care about this league and its clubs and its players tomorrow than they did today? And looking at those metrics on the field, it's we want to be competitive in competitions. In continental competition. Ultimately, we want to win the TELUS Canadian Championship, and we want to win the CONCACAF Champions Cup. It's not going to happen overnight. It took MLS probably 25 years, I believe, to finally win, beat the monsters from Mexico. Those guys have dominated the competition, but that's our ambition. We're not taking a back seat to anybody. We may be a young league, but we're not taking a back seat to anybody.
Following on from that, then, how do you get a foothold with the public, with media, when there's so much other attention, not just on soccer, but on other sports in general here?
Time helps. Consistency helps. Consistently doing the right things every day to build your business and to build your product. getting some luck sometimes. Getting a player into our system that all of a sudden is special, and that's starting to happen. I think you may have one here, what I'm been told, and hopefully that's the case. Not to put any pressure on the young man, who I won't name because that's not fair. But it's a question of time. It's not a question of anything other than doing the right things over time.
Everyone always talks about expansion. You've been asked, I think, in every single interview that you've done. And recently you mentioned some speed bumps for 2025, so you're not expecting any for 2025. But with the World Cup obviously here in 2026, do you feel that's the time to make a bit of a splash for the league? Can I maybe look to expand it?
Yeah, certainly we have to expand. The biggest challenge is facility. And as I said the other day, is that if we wanted to play in some existing stadiums that have stitched in gridiron football lines that don't look professional, we could have expanded by now. But that's not the type of league we aspire to be. We want to be a proper soccer football league, and so we're going to wait until we have those conditions to be successful before we expand. We will double the size of the league, I think, within the next decade. But we're going to expand when we have the right facility, the right owner, the right community support, the things that you need to do to be a successful league, to present a great product and add to what we already have here. So very bullish on our future expansion, but we're going to do it the right way because I've learned the previous league I worked in and when I came into this league that if you don't have those conditions, it's really painful. And people, we're talking about people here, and we want to make sure that we do it right.
One of the stories of the offseason was obviously Atletico Ottawa and the super team that they've created. A lot of people were worried about salary compliance, but you can assure us that every team is complying with the restrictions and everything. How much does that show in terms of the growth that the league has financially and the constraints that teams have, that a team like Atletico Ottawa can have such stars they have under the rules and be able to field such a team, and how every team has the opportunity to do that as well?
Yeah, I mean, to be clear, that we are a capped league, which is really important because most leagues around the world that aren't capped are hemorrhaging money. That's why things like the Super League come along, because they've spent way too much money. It's funny, the Super League, it wasn't a revenue problem because those leagues have massive revenue. It was an expense problem because they couldn't control their spending. And so here's another idea that we're going to come up with because we're all in debt. And our structure avoids that, and it's really important to a young growing league because if we don't have that, we have very competitive owners. They all want to win, and one of them will start spending, the other one will say, and it becomes an arms race. So really important, but it's also important to have fairness in our competition, and that's critically important to me. This is the first year we've ever done an audit, a compliance audit when it comes to the cap. About 2 months ago, we found that 4 clubs were in danger of not being in compliance, and we worked with all 4 of those clubs. We didn't approve some signings for some of those clubs because we believe it would have put them out of compliance. And I can tell you unequivocally that Ottawa's been, some people have accused Ottawa of not being compliant. They're 100% in compliance. And the nice thing is that our 8 clubs have never been closer in terms of their spend. So every club is spending to the cap, and they're pushing it. And that's what you want. You want them to spend. Fans want them to spend as much as they possibly can to be competitive, and that's what they're doing.
Talking a little bit about maybe a team that isn't spending as much in getting players, but is showing the talent in the homegrown, is Vancouver FC. Like you mentioned, they have a lot of really good young players that are coming up, and that's sort of the story that they've molded so far in a year and a bit into their history. How do you see that as like a storyline to have within the league of a team that's really looking at local talent and giving them that opportunity?
Yeah, I think they're building from the community. Football is a community sport, and when you can be a reflection of your community and have, I don't know, is it 18 of the players that have some sort of connection to this community? It's amazing, right? And then you do things like this beautiful cherry blossom jersey, with an amazing cause for the anti-bullying. I mean, that's how that's you become a real business. We're not about making every single last dollar. Obviously, we're a for-profit business, but if football is about the community, I think this club is making that statement about, hey, we want to sign players, we want to promote players, and we want to be part of this community and do good things in it.
Talking of the cherry blossom kit, they're actually went on sale in a sports shop in Glasgow this morning.
Wow.
Someone sent me the picture of it, so it's spreading far and wide.
It's been a great hit. Credit to Mark and the staff, because I think the two kits they have, the black with the feathers on it, are both both spectacular. So credit to the staff for that development. Macron, our partner, does beautiful kits, and I will put our league's kits up against any other league in the world from a design perspective.
Yeah. Just talking about the league's viability. Now, here in BC, there's been all these rumours that came out about Pacific being for sale, and no matter how many times the ownership deny it, the rumours won't go away. Can you talk a little bit about the league's viability and how you see League One also fitting in with that?
So, I mean, I said it earlier, the league has never been more stable. So viability is not a question. We sit around the board table. Nobody's questioned the viability of the league. Are our clubs continuing to invest to build? Of course. Most clubs, on an operating basis, in our league as well as most leagues I know, typically invest more than they make, but then over time their asset value goes up, and that's been the equation, particularly with MLS. That's a tried and true kind of equation, and so the viability is not a question at all with our league.
How would you see League One then tying in with everything?
League One is an incredible success story. When we started owning and operating League One in 2019 as CSB, it had 40 clubs. This year we're going to have 200 clubs.
Oh, wow.
And I hate to see what happened with the Highlanders, but that happens in leagues around the world. But going from 40 to 200, and that's not going to stop growing. And including, of those 200, 91 of them are women's clubs. And you all hosted the Women's Interprovincial Championship out here. That's the highest level of women's football in this country. 10% of every League One player ends up getting a professional contract. So we're and then on to the national team. So we're creating the future stars through League One, and we're going to continue growing that. Hugely important to the player development pyramid in Canada.
Thank you so much, Mark. Absolute pleasure.
Great to see you.
Thanks.
Thank
nice
you,
to see you.
Mark Noonan there, talking all things CPL. Few interesting little tidbits coming out of that. Still bullish about expanding the league in the coming years. It is a shame that it doesn't look like there's going to be any additions in 2025. Everyone is just really, really wanting a Quebec side in there. Could they also return to the Edmonton market? He's said in some other interviews that is certainly possible. You've got some really top teams in League One as well who might look to make the jump. A lot of it, of course, does boil down to money. He feels the league is very viable. But the rumours about Pacific being for sale just will not go away. I think it's quite commonly known that Valor have been courting new owners for a little bit now. And of course, it looks like this deal with One Soccer to broadcast the league this year is going to be the last year of that agreement, and they will be looking for a new broadcast partner for 2025. So a lot to look forward to on the pitch, maybe a little bit of apprehension off it, but I think this is going to be a fantastic season of CPL action, and we'll have you covered all the way here on the AFTN Soccer Show. So that's nearly it for the show. A Of course, we can't go without bringing you this episode's wavelength, and we're going back to 2011 for our wavelength tune this week, and I'm playing this in honour of the battling performance of Coventry City today, robbed of a place in the FA Cup final. This is a song by a band called The Believers with While the Sky is Blue.
Come on, sky blue army. 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 We are here, we are there. Sky blue army everywhere. Hear the crowd, we are loud. We are passionate and proud. And every year, the dreaded fear. Look at us, still we are here. With the rest, with the best. In our sky blue happiness. Happiness. While the sky is blue, we'll never lose. If we believe it, we can see it coming. While the sky is blue, we'll never lose. If we believe it, we can see it coming true. Come on, sky blue army. Come on, sky blue. The finest time in our lives was 8 to 7, 5:30. The whistle blew, and then we knew the ribbons would be white and blue. And once again, 11 men could make us feel how we did then. On and on, we'll sing our song. Keep the faith now, everyone. Everyone. While the sky is blue, we'll never lose. If we believe it, we can see it coming. While the sky is blue, we'll never lose. If we believe it, we can see it coming. While the sky is blue, we'll never lose. If we believe it, we can see it coming. While the sky is blue, we'll never lose. If we believe it, we can see it coming true. Come on, sky blue army. 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 While the sky is blue, we'll never lose. If we believe it, we can see it coming. While the sky is blue, we'll never lose. If we believe it, we can see it coming. While the sky is blue, we'll never lose. If we believe it, we will see it coming. While the sky is blue, we'll never lose. If we believe it, we will see it coming. While the sky is blue, we'll never lose. If we believe it, we will see it coming. While the sky is blue, we'll never lose. If we believe it, we will see it coming. While the sky is blue, we'll never lose.
From 2011 there, The Believers, While the Sky is Blue. Well, that is it now for this episode of the AFTN Soccer Show. Just before we go though, Zach, let everyone know where they can find you online, anything that's caught your eye this week, or any final thoughts from you.
You can find me on X, occasionally tweeting at Zachary AM. I just want to give a shout out to all the fans who went down to Seattle last week. We were talking about how we encourage anyone to get down to get down.
They had issues.
Yeah, I was going to say there were some bus problems.
Yeah,
right?
the bus broke down. I don't know the full story yet, but I saw that their bus broke down.
Yeah, but kudos to everyone who did make it down and was able there. to support. I think it's great, and obviously having home and away fans in the stadium is usually a very good thing. So
yeah, I'm keeping my fingers crossed my passport comes through in time that I can get down for that next game next month.
Nice. So yeah, kudos to everyone for that. Yeah, it was good this last week to be able to see Whitecap A-League USL legend David Morris out at the Vancouver FC game last week. Came and stopped by at the half and just to reminisce.
I didn't know you took the picture at the game.
Yeah, he was at the game, man.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Are you blind?
I just thought you were randomly showing me a picture.
No, he came by at the half.
I am. I can't see very well with my glasses on. I have to take them off to look at things like phones.
Yeah.
It's a weird predicament I'm in just now.
He came by the half to connect and yeah.
Did you tell me you still dream of a team of him?
I didn't say it like that, but no,
Every night I dream of 11 of you in my life.
No, he's a solid guy. I think, Michael, I might be wrong, but I don't think I am. He's the first Whitecap player I ever sat down, broke bread with, and like he just shared his story. And yeah, I think we met somewhere in, I don't know, Burnaby or somewhere, and he told me his story, and I got to know him a little bit better. And yeah, I just have a lot of time for David Morris, and he is a local legend of that area, a guy who played like virtually every position, I think, other than keeper, in terms of the defense and midfield and up front, and scored some massive goals. And he's just a great human being, and so it was really good to just to reconnect with him. I think his brother was with him. That was kind of cool too. And,
well, I mean, the big question: did you get him to do a bumper for the show?
No, I should have taken.
Yes, you should have.
I should have. I'm sorry. Yeah, I should have said, "Hey, Michael McCall couldn't pick you out of a lineup, but
but he knows your name."
I did say to him, I said, "Can I ask you something awkward?" He's like, "Yeah." I said, "Can we take a picture?" I said, "I don't often ask people this, but I said, can we take a picture? Because I haven't seen you. We interact occasionally on social media and whatever, but it's been a long time since I've seen him like in person and been able to like even just talk for a few minutes. So that was really nice." And
last thing I want to talk about, Provincial Cup. It was A Cup semi-final weekend. I was at both the A Cup semi-finals. So Friday night, Coquitlam Mitreford shocked 3-time defending champions BB5 United 4-0. They are through to next weekend's final, and they will be playing VUFC Hibernian, who beat your boy Zach, Abbotsford United 4-3 in a barn-burning match up at UBC on Sunday afternoon. The highlights of the Mitreford BB5 games already on the AFTN YouTube channel. I'll work tomorrow on the Hibernian Abbey highlights, so they should go up at some point on Monday. You don't want to miss that. It's an absolutely tremendous game. Unfortunately, it's at the worst pitch in the lower mainland to film a game at, which is the UBC South Turf, because if you're in the bleachers, you can't see over the fence to film. I went up to the baseball diamond, and you've got a clear view of the one goal, but then you've got a baseball net that you can't see the other one very clearly. So I'm down at pitch level, unfortunately, which is great because you get to hear Mike Mosher shouting at his players and all the other stuff that goes on, but it does make for really shit camera angles. But it's a great game. You don't want to miss that. The final, if you're on the island, next Sunday, 3 o'clock kickoff, I think it is, at Starlight Stadium. It's going to be Mitreford against VUFC Hibernian. Get along to that one. It's Provincial Cup weekend on the Saturday and the Sunday. All the A-Cup, Masters, men's, women's, all getting played. So it should be a fantastic weekend. We are going to be back with another podcast later this week, which will be focusing on League One, with some other stuff thrown in as well, because the League One season also gets underway next weekend. We'll talk more about that. We'll talk more about Whitecaps, more about Vancouver FC after the Canadian Championship game as well. And we'll be back with that probably on Friday. But until then, as always, thank you for listening to all of our nonsense. Take care, stay safe, mon the Caps, and fly the Eagles!
going to your first match is an experience you never forget. The atmosphere of what's going on around the pitch looks beautiful, and you always look and go, wow, I'd love to play here one day. If you get the bug, it's going to stay with you for life.
AFTN